the only pain pill I knew about was porn because I didn't know how to process the emotions in a healthy way. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Porn to Purpose podcast. This week, I'm flying solo. I'm your host, Yeadon Smith. My partner in recovery, Matt Sinkovich, he ran into some unassailable technical difficulties today. Couldn't make it for the recording of this episode, but we decided collectively, you know what? This is too important to just skip recording. So I'm coming at you talking about the recovery skills that build real adulthood. Because something that's present for me, some background on me. So me coming up on 20 years married this December. It's October 15th at the time of this recording. And my oldest son just turned 18 on October 9th. So basically right at a week ago he was 17, and then he turned 18 last week on Thursday. Now, 18 in our culture, in society, one, that is now legally, he's an adult. However, anybody who's my age, any of us like real grown-ups out there, we all know, man, being 18 does not make you responsible. It just makes you liable. Being 18, there's no magic wand. There's no magic door that you walk through when you turn 18 and suddenly you are a full-grown adult. You're a full-grown man. That's not how life works. And I was thinking about how my recovery skills can apply the skills that I want my son to develop, the skills of active recovery, the skills that are going to take him far as a man in life. Because let's be real, at 18, talk with insurance agents. They all know your car insurance does not go down until you're 25. That's when your brain is fully finished forming. Not when you're 18, when you're 25. At 18, you can vote, you can get drafted, you can be held liable in a court, but you can't rent a car reasonably. The insurance companies know. So thinking about what skills have I learned in my recovery journey as a dad, as a father? What are some of the skills that I really want my son to latch onto? How has my recovery changed my life? How can I pass these lessons on to my son? So we've been sitting down, not just last week. We've been sitting down regularly, having conversations, not every week because life is hectic. But I've been creating intentional space with my son to sit down and talk to him about, hey, what is it like to make this transition from child to adult, from boy to man? Because it is a process. The joke is, hey, now I can change the locks and kick you out. Nobody can say no. You're on your own. Depart in peace. Hope you make it, right? So just like active recovery from pornography addiction, it's not really about quitting porn. It's about building new coping strategies, new coping mechanisms, new systems around managing the pain of life. We talk about it all the time. I didn't have a porn problem. I had a pain problem. Porn was the system I used to manage the pain. And the system almost worked. It managed pain, but then the pain came right back. Now the systems that I've built around my life are way more effective at managing pain, and they don't have any negative side effects. So just like recovery is not so much about quitting porn, but about building new systems, building the capacity to sit with discomfort, building healthy coping mechanisms, the journey into adulthood is learning how to live on purpose, how to build systems in your life that amplify what you want to accomplish, that feed you, that don't pull you down, that elevate you. So first big step, I know, so I got my notes here. First big step I would say is talking with William My son, one of the biggest first steps I think is in this transition is taking ownership. Taking ownership. Maybe you might have read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko, right? Good. Taking extreme ownership of every aspect of your life. In recovery and addiction, you learn pretty quick, like no one is coming to save you. No one can save me but myself. Conversations, my wife was not responsible for saving me. My children were not responsible for saving me. No one was responsible for saving me other than myself. I had to take responsibility for my choices, my actions, my thoughts, my mindset, my recovery plan. And with my son, it's the same thing. It's like, dude, you have to start taking more and more ownership of your life. More and more, I own this. Now, ownership, sometimes, sometimes we confuse ownership with responsibility or fault, because it's not my son's fault his life is the way it is. He was born into this family. He didn't ask to be here. He didn't ask to show up. He had no vote. He didn't ask for me to be in full-time youth ministry. He didn't have a vote on kind of how his life unfolded with homeschooling, moving to South Carolina, various educational tracks that he did. He didn't really get a huge input. He didn't really get a huge vote in this process. But even though we don't control what life gives us, we are 100% responsible for what we do next. We're responsible for what we do next. If life gives us if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. The shift from blame to ownership, that's one of the biggest steps. That's one of the steps on the journey from boy to man. Next one, structure of freedom. People think of freedom as, freedom, I can do whatever I want. But y'all, that's not true freedom. That's just chaos. True freedom is having structure in your life, having systems where you know what the outcome is going to be. One of the systems I have in my life is my core four, these 4 daily habits: exercise, which for me is a walk; reading, whether it's an audiobook or reading on my Kindle, whatever book I'm reading; journaling, I voice text into my phone for my journal; and meditation, turn on my meditation app, sit in my chair. That's a system that I have in my life that I work every single day. I have this system that helps me stay centered, helps me focus on what's going well in my life. I get to practice the pause, practice identifying my thoughts, identifying my emotions. It's a system that I have. And I've been talking with my son, William, about systems lately. Like, for example, what system do you have, son, to keep track of what you need to do in life? I don't know. I just kind of remember. Like, that's not a system. Trusting your brain to remember what you need to do, granted, that is a system. But that system is probably not going to work as effectively as you need it to. I mean, I'm 45. I do not trust my brain to remember stuff. I have to write it down. I have to set alarms on my phone. I have to put it in my calendar. I have to put all sorts of guardrails around my life so I don't lose track of what I have going on. Now, granted, when you're 18, it's like, what do I have to do today? Well, I have to mail my thank you notes. I have to take the trash out. That's it. Okay, maybe your brain system is acceptable for that level of responsibility. But very quickly, you're going to start adding on responsibility in your life. It's going to keep coming. What type of system? And actually, we just ordered like a week planner, like a daytimer type paper planner, because he doesn't use his calendar. He's like, if I put it in my calendar, I will not pay attention to it. So we're testing out systems to track what does he need to do. I have systems in my life. I have systems that I use to track my recovery habits. I have systems that I use to track what I need to be doing in connecting with my family on a weekly basis, in moving my business forward on a weekly basis. I have systems. So I'm working with my son to help him figure out what system is going to get him the results that he wants as he makes his transition from boy to man. Part 3, protecting what matters with boundaries. Boundaries are a thing that a lot of men struggle with. Whether it's, oh, I can't say no, whether you're enmeshed with your own parents, right? Emotionally codependent, not knowing how to set up good boundaries in your life to protect yourself. In recovery, boundaries are critical. If you're in recovery for alcohol, not a good idea to hang out at a bar. That might be one of your boundaries, right? If you are recovering from pornography addiction, a boundary could be, hey, I don't have any devices that don't have some sort of accountability software on them around me that I can control. It's a boundary, or whatever the boundary is. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about protecting what's sacred. Protecting what's sacred. So boundary, like a boundary that I have that I've started to put in place recently, is bedtime. I have noticed if I don't get a good night's sleep, I'm extremely fragile the next day. And I have 4 kids, and they don't all go to bed at the same time. And I've had to put in a pretty hard boundary in this past month with my youngest. Say, hey, I really want to tuck you in at night. But unfortunately, I cannot just wait until you're ready. Here is the window when I will come tuck you in at this very specific time. If you're ready, great. We'll do lights out, tuck you in, good night, sleep good, I love you. If you're not ready, that's okay. This is when I'm going to say good night, sleep good, I love you, and tuck you in. Even if you're not ready for lights out, this is when I am saying good night, and now I have to move on to take care of the other stuff I have to get done. I got to take a shower. I got to brush my teeth. I got to do my evening chores because I have to get to sleep by a certain time so that when my body clock wakes me up tomorrow morning, I'm okay. And I'm not running on fumes and ragged and no good to my family the next day. Had to put this kind of hard boundary in place. There have been nights where it's been a little bit painful. Like, I'm sorry, sweetie. This is the opportunity I have. I love you so much. I can't come back in 30 minutes. I have this time right now. Now I have to go do my stuff and go get in bed and go to sleep. Because nobody wants grumpy dad tomorrow. Something to remember. You don't set boundaries because you're weak. You set them because your mission matters. For the longest time, I thought, hey, I'll just get up early. I'll go to bed late. I'll set my schedule around whatever my kids need. And I realized that's counterproductive in some aspects. Granted, there are some extenuating circumstances where, hey, my kids need me and I need to show up. But that's not an everyday thing. If I have to get up super early in the morning to get my daughter to elementary school, I need to be in bed by a certain hour so that my physical body doesn't start to deteriorate. I'm 45. I need a certain amount of sleep so I'm not on edge all day the next day. Without the boundary, I was burning out. Now that I have the boundary in place, I'm getting better sleep. My watch is tracking everything. Like, my sleep is much better now that I put those boundaries in place. Boundaries matter. Emotional regulation. That's the next thing, y'all. One of the biggest aspects of being a man. I love this book from, I can't remember the author's name, but Masculinity in Relationship. And he identifies the masculine core as the capacity to sit with anxiety and stress. I love how he points that out, that at its core, masculinity is the capacity to sit with the uncomfortable emotions, with the stress, with the anxiety, with the pain, to be able to sit in the pain and not react, but to be able to think about, how do I want to respond in this situation? That skill for a man is a game changer. We talk about, you may have heard about emotional intelligence, blogs, videos, online, but really understanding that emotional intelligence, it doesn't have anything to do with intellectual understanding. It has to do with just an awareness of what are the emotions happening? What's actually going on right now? Is that reality? I feel under attack. I feel upset. I feel angry. I feel nervous. I feel sadness. What are these uncomfortable emotions that are happening? Is that reality? Probably not. Having that emotional intelligence, that emotional awareness, so you can identify. Because for me, with my porn addiction, not being aware of what was going on, it always led to acting out. It's like, I feel bad. I don't know why. I just feel bad. Well, enough time goes by feeling bad, and that part of me that is just trying to protect me is like, hey, man, you can't survive just feeling bad all the time. We got to have some sort of pressure release, right? We got to on the pressure valve, we got to release the steam or you're going to explode. And the only pain pill I knew about was porn because I didn't know how to process the emotions in a healthy way. I didn't have any sort of emotional awareness or emotional intelligence. What I'm trying to teach my son is the skill set of being able to sit in the emotions and not run from it, to be able to sit in that silence and feeling deeply without losing control. Being a man doesn't mean you don't have feelings. I would offer it's the exact opposite. Being a true man means you feel deeply. And y'all, that is uncomfortable to really feel our emotions. But being able to really feel the emotions without reacting, that's what separates the men from the boys every time. You can feel anger, sadness, fear. You can feel all of these emotions, but you don't have to feed them. You pause, breathe, and respond instead of react. You have the choice on what to do next after feeling the emotions. And why? Why even talk about all this stuff? Y'all, it's because for most of my life, I was stuck. For most of my life, I was stuck in the grip of pornography, in the grip of this unhealthy coping mechanism. I was not emotionally aware. I was not emotionally intelligent. I was reactive. I didn't know how to show up for my wife. I didn't know how to show up for my family. I was trying. I was doing everything I thought I could to show up, get the bills paid, keep everything on track. And I was dying inside. And recovery changed my life. Recovery got me on this path of growth, got me on this path of understanding what's happening on the inside. And y'all, I want that for my children. I want my sons to be on this path to being a functionally and stable operating man at every level way before I ever got there. I want my daughter to know what it means to I want my daughter to know what a healthy man looks like, what being around a healthy man feels like. What kind of emotional regulation do I want her to find in her future partner if she gets married? What kind of husbands, what kind of men do I want my sons to be? Emotionally regulated and stable. So the deeper purpose behind all this stuff is legacy. It really is going from porn to purpose. Going from using porn as the pain pill to cope with life to building a legacy of intention and purpose and growth and impact. Because, I'm only 2.5 years, almost 3 years into my recovery journey. I'm just getting started. If I had really understood what it meant to grow and take all this recovery work and be able to access it without needing to recover from an addiction, who knows where I would be with decades of practice. I can't wait to see how my children grow into adulthood. It's going to be messy. It's going to be painful. I'm going to have to practice sitting with a lot of uncomfortable emotions because I know my kids already make choices that I don't think they should because they're kids and they're living their own lives. And as they grow, that's going to continue. They're going to make decisions that don't have anything to do with me. My goal is to be there for them, to be present, to be stable, to be active in my own recovery so I can show up for them with peace and power, with strength and stability, regardless of what challenges they face in life. So, man, if you're listening out there, one, thanks for hanging out with me for this monologue, this soliloquy today. I miss my partner, Matt, but he'll be back with us next time. In the meantime, y'all, thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to the Porn to Purpose podcast with Yeadon Smith, your host this week. I just launched a new Instagram. Just wanted to throw it out there. If y'all are on Instagram, you can find me at Recovered Dad on Instagram. You can also find me on Substack. Started a Substack where writing about what's it like being a father in recovery, because my children are one of the biggest driving forces in my life. Working with my children and seeing what they're going to accomplish in their life. Find me on Instagram, Recovered Dad. You can find me on Substack, Recovered Dad also. You've been listening to the Porn to Purpose podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to talk, find me online. Shoot me a message. Love to hear your story. In the meantime, Godspeed. Keep on doing the work. We'll talk soon.